Hello everyone. So our today's topic of discussion is we'll be understanding Venn diagrams with the matrix method. Okay. This is an important concept for those who are preparing for GMAT and GRE. This is not asked in ACT. So this is like focused only for GMAT and GRE students. Specifically more for GRE because in case of GRE, when you talk about Venn diagrams, you only have Venn diagrams with matrix method. Okay. Now, in case of GMAT, you have matrix method for two quantities and you have Venn diagrams for three quantities also. Okay, so you have to focus on both the things. In this video, we'll only be learning the matrix method of Venn diagram. Okay, so I'm going to explain you what a Venn diagram for two quantity looks like and how the matrix method and the circle method. The circle method is something that we have been doing that you guys would be more familiar with. I'm going to first make you understand that there is no difference between the two things. It's just the interpretation or the way you put up things, it's different. Okay, the way they are shown, that's different. Apart from that, conceptually there is no difference between the two things. Okay, so let's try and understand. So let's take an example. So let's say there is a party and in that party there are only two beverages available. One is Coca-Cola and another one is Mirinda. So if there are only two beverages available, what are the possibilities? Like what all people can drink in this party? So what do we do in order to represent this, in order to represent this information, we represent this information with the help of Venn diagram using circles. So Venn diagram with two quantities using circles is drawn as something like this. So let's consider the circle on the left represent people who are drinking Coca-Cola. Circle on the right represent people who are drinking Mirinda. This intersection of the two circles represents the people who drink both of the two beverages, and this one here represents people who drink neither of the two beverages. Right? So you guys would be knowing this. This is nothing new. Okay. So you have Coca-Cola, both Mirinda and neither. So you write your basic equation as total number of people minus people who are drinking neither of the two, or let me write none of the two. That will be equal to people drinking Coca-Cola plus people drinking Mirinda minus people drinking both of them. Minus people drinking both of them. Or you can also rewrite your equation as like this part here, this green part. This represents only Coca-Cola. This part here, this represents only Mirinda. You can also write your equation as, and you would be knowing this is nothing new that I'm teaching you, that is total minus none will be equal to only Coca-Cola plus only Mirinda plus both. Now observe the two equations. The difference is that in the first one, like we subtracted both, in the second one we added both. The reason being is that when you say Coca-Cola, you're basically talking about both the regions. You're basically talking about both the regions. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's name this only Coca-Cola part as 1, this both part is 2, and this Mirinda part as 3. So when you say Coca-Cola, you means 1 plus 2. When you say Mirinda, you mean 2 plus 3. So what's happening is you're counting that region, that both region twice. That's why you have subtracted both once. Okay, that's why you have subtracted both once. But when you use the word only Coca-Cola and only Mirinda, you're only talking about region 1 and region 3. You're not even counting region 2 once. That's why in that case you have added both. Okay, that's why you have added both. So anyways, the bottom line is that we are not here to discuss this, what you call the circle diagram. That's not our concern. I'll be making a different video, a dedicated video on this, in which I'll be explaining you everything from the scratch. This is just for the revision. Okay, so this video is basically only for those who know what are like Venn diagrams for two quantities and what is like the basic structure of matrix looks like. If you know, then only watch this video. Unless wait for me to like make a video on basics of Venn diagram. I'll do that in a day or two something. I'm going to explain you like how exactly a circle is made and everything, how do you form the equations and everything, and then you can come back to this video. But if you know, then you can go through this video. Okay. All right. This is an important topic. So, and this is something that the Venn diagram for two quantities, everyone knows this. This is nothing new. Okay. But if in case you don't know, then please don't proceed. Otherwise, you'll be confused. If you know, then please proceed. No problem with that part. Okay. Now the point is, this information regarding Coca-Cola and Mirinda, you have represented this with the help of circles. You can also represent this information with the help of a matrix, and a matrix for two quantities is drawn as something like this. It's drawn something like this. Okay. Now, whenever you draw a matrix, it's like 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines, nothing new in this. So you need to just ensure, you need to know the two quantities that you are talking about in the question. You need to know the two quantities that you are talking about in this question. Now, the two things that we are talking about in this question is Coca-Cola and Mirinda. The two things that we are talking about in this question is Coca-Cola and Mirinda. Now let's look at them individually. Let's talk about Coca-Cola first. Now, can I say if I talk about Coca-Cola, either a person will have Coca-Cola or he will not have Coca-Cola. There is no third thing that can happen, right? If you're going to attend a party and they're like, there's a beverage available, either you will have that beverage or you will not have that beverage. There is no third thing that can happen. Okay, so you can say that Coca-Cola, I'm writing CC and no Coca-Cola. Similarly, when you talk about Mirinda, the same thing is going to happen. Either you're going to have Mirinda or you will not have Mirinda. You're going to have Mirinda or you will not have Mirinda. There is nothing else that can happen. Okay. Now this portion here represents total number of people who will be attending the party. This here represents total number of people who will be having Mirinda. This one here represents total number of people who will not be having Mirinda. This here represents total number of people who will be having Coca-Cola. This here represents total number of people who will not be having Coca-Cola. Total Coca-Cola, total no Coca-Cola. Okay. Now let's look at the boxes. Let's look at this first box. Now this first box basically consists of people having Coca-Cola as well as Mirinda. Coca-Cola as well as Mirinda, that means both. That means both. So it's exactly like this both. It is exactly like this both. This second block here represents Mirinda but no Coca-Cola. So Mirinda, no Coca-Cola is like only Mirinda. So it's this region. Next one, the third block is Coca-Cola but no Mirinda. So Coca-Cola but no Mirinda is like only Coca-Cola. So this region. And the fourth block is like no Coca-Cola and no Mirinda. So that's like the none party. Exactly the same. It's exactly the same. There is no conceptual difference between the Venn diagram with circular method and the Venn diagram using the matrix method. There is no difference. It's just the way you put up things that's different. Okay, and intentionally what they do is intentionally in GRE and GMAT they're gonna frame a question which it will be easier for you to solve if you will do it using the matrix method. They will intentionally form that question. That's the reason why we are learning this. Otherwise there is no difference conceptually, no difference, zero. Okay, you can also if let's suppose if you have this question in this mind, okay, so what about this first circle that represents the entire Coca-Cola? How would you represent that on your matrix if you're saying that it's exactly the same? So when you say total Coca-Cola, so this is total Coca-Cola. What about the circle on the right? Okay, so circle on the right is like total Mirinda. This is your total Mirinda. This is your total Mirinda. So it's exactly the same. There is no difference, zero difference. It's just the way you represent things on the paper, that's the only difference. And the questions are intentionally formed in this way, okay? So I thought I'll just make it clear to you. Questions are intentionally formed in the matrix way, okay? All right, so what we'll be doing is, I'll be solving this question for you. I'll be making that matrix again. I'll explain you how to put numbers where they're supposed to be put, and then how to calculate things. So I'm going to explain you this example, and then from the next question, you'll be pausing the video and you'll be trying the question yourself. Okay. So let's get started. First of all, let me make the matrix for this one. So it's going to be 3 horizontal lines and 3 vertical lines. Okay. Now, what are the two quantities that we're talking about? Because that's the main thing you need to understand. Okay. Usually students are confused in that. So in every question, whatever number of questions we'll be taking up in this video, the most important thing that we'll be emphasizing upon is the two quantities that we need to concern about. Okay. Apart from that, it's simply plus, minus, and nothing else is there. So in this case, of the 80 cars sold by a dealer in a month, 36 have airbag, 58 have power steering, and 17 have both airbag and power steering. Okay. So we can very well identify that the two things that we are talking about in this question are airbag and power steering. Now let's look at them individually and let's use our logic also. Can I say, if I talk about airbag, a car will either have an airbag or it will not have an airbag? Is there any third thing possible? No, there is no third thing possible. Either a car will have an airbag or it will not have an airbag. So you will write airbag and no airbag. Similarly, when you talk about power steering, either a car will have power steering or it will not have a power steering. There is no third thing that's possible. So power steering and no power steering. Okay. Now it says that of the 80 cars sold, that means I can say total number of cars are 80. So in the total blank, in the total box, I'm gonna put 80. 36 have airbag, so total airbag is 36. 58 have power steering, total power steering is 50. Now let's again use our logic. When it says 36 have airbags, can I say remaining 44 will not be having airbags? Remaining 44 will not be having airbags because total cars are 80, out of which 36 have airbags, which means 44 won't be having airbags. So this will automatically become 44. Similarly, 58 have power steering. That means remaining 22 won't have power steering. Now what's there in the question? 17 have both. So this here is 70. So this is block 1, this is block 2, this is block 3, and this is block 4. Now block 1 plus block 2 is total power steering. Block 1 plus block 2 is total power steering. So I can say that this number here will automatically become 41. Okay. Which means this number here will automatically become 3 because 2 plus 4 is equal to 44. And if this is 3, then this will automatically become 90. Then you can answer whatever the question is. How many of the sold cars have neither airbag nor power steering? So that's like 3 cars. Okay, so again, first and the foremost thing is you need to identify what are the two quantities that we are talking about, and then simply draw the matrix. Whatever information is given, put that information, and then simply start solving the questions. Okay, that's it, nothing else is required. Okay, so now let's move on to question number 1. Now understand this, there is not much in this concept that can be asked, right? It's like 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines. They have to give you information in order for you to find out the answer, whether it is GMAT or whether it's GRE. Okay, so what they do, how do they make questions difficult? They make questions difficult by giving you terms, or by giving you information in terms of fractions, ratios, percentages. They try to make questions difficult. They use difficult wordings. Okay, so they try to confuse you with the help of words. Apart from that, there is nothing else, because it's a very simple concept. Okay, so pause the video and try this question yourself first. Okay, whatever you can, try this question yourself. Then we're gonna discuss this question in detail. All right, let's try this one. So I'm gonna have three vertical lines and I'm gonna have three horizontal lines. Okay, let's read out the question first. 2/5 of the cars manufactured by a company are defective. Okay, 2/5 are defective. 3/5 of the defective cars and 1/20th of non-defective cars are left-hand drive. Okay. If all the left-hand drive cars are exported by the factory and every car manufactured is either a left-hand drive or a right-hand drive, then what fraction of exported left-hand cars are defective? So too much of information, and every information is in terms of ratios. Okay, so let's go through it once more and let's try to first analyze what are the quantities that we are seeking in this question. Okay, that's the first and the foremost thing. Okay, so 2/5 are defective, so this should be something defective. This should be one of the quantities. So if I have defective, then I would also automatically have non-defective. Anyways, but let's move on. We'll get to finalize this. Now 3/5 of defective and 1/20th of non-defective. So we got a non-defective also. Now that means I'm pretty confident that defective is one of our quantities and non-defective is the reciprocal of that. Non-defective cars are left-hand drive. Now there again they have used a different word. Now that's a left-hand drive. And all left-hand cars are exported by factory, and every car manufactured is either a left-hand or right-hand. Now this gives me the final hint that when you talk about drive, there are only two types of drive, that is left-hand and right-hand. So I have defective, non-defective, I have left-hand and I have right-hand. Now if I go a step further than this, and if I'm going to use my logic, can I say a defective car can be a left-hand drive, a defective car can be a right-hand drive. Similarly, a non-defective car can be a left-hand drive, a non-defective car can be a right-hand drive also. Voila. So that means that my matrix can be completed. Okay, because defective and non-defective have nothing in common, right and left have nothing in common. So I can make my matrix as D for defective, ND for non-defective, LH for left hand, and RH for right hand. So first thing first, that is I have my quantities in the place. I have my quantities in the place. Okay, now there is nothing else that is mentioned in the question. No numbers are given to me, nothing is given to me. Now there are two ways of solving questions like these. Either you go the conventional way, that you take the total quantity to be X and then you start solving the way we used to do the way we have been doing in our schools, or we can do it the smarter way. We can assume a number, but we can't just simply assume anything. We can't take, okay, let's take total to be 10 or 100. We have to be very clever while assuming the numbers. So what we are going to do is we're going to assume the LCM of the denominator of all the fractions, or probably a higher number than that. So I have 2/5, 2/5, then 3/5, then I have 1/20th, and nothing else is mentioned. Now interestingly, if you're going to observe this, in the question also they have also asked about the fraction. If they have given all the information in terms of fraction, they will not ask you question in terms of an absolute value. They will also ask you question in terms of a fraction or a relative value. Okay, so you are safe. Now use this method only when all the terms are given to you in terms of percentages or fraction. If any one of the terms is given as an absolute value, that is like a specific number 20, 30, 35, 40, then you can't choose any number. Then in that case you'll have to take X only. Okay, now in this case everything is given to me in terms of ratios, so I'm going to assume a number. So 20 and 5, so let's take total to be 1000 to be on the safer side. You could have taken it to be 100 also, but I'm going to take it to be 1000. And I'm going to just verify it once more that I'm not missing out on any of the fractions. So 2/5, 3/5, 1/20th, manufactured either left hand, no, nothing else is there. So I'm going to take my total to be 1000, that's for sure. Now let's go one by one. Let's read out the statements and let's see what all information can be filled in. So 2/5 of the cars manufactured by a company are defective. So 2/5 are defective. So 2 by 5 of 1000 will be 400. Now can I immediately say that if out of 1000 400 are defective, that means 600 would be non-defective. So 600 are non-defective or not defective. Okay. Now it says 3/5 of defective cars. 3/5 of defective cars. So 3/5 of defective cars and 1/20th of non-defective. So let me write this: 3/5 of defective, 3 by 5d, and 1/20th of non-defective. They are left-hand drive. They are left-hand drive. So I can say that 3/5 of defective, 3/5 of defective are left-hand. That means this value will be 3 by 5d. Because it says that 3/5 of defective are left-hand. 3 by 5 of total defective are left-hand. Similarly, 1/20th of non-defective are left-hand. So 1/20th of non-defective would come here. Let's just calculate the two values. So this will become 160. Let me just calculate once more. So 240, not 160, my bad, 240. And 1/20th of non-defective will simply be equal to 30. This will be 30. Now if this is 240 and the total is 400, that means defective and right hand will be 160, because when you talk about defective, there are only two possibilities: defective left hand, defective right hand. If defective left hand is 240, then defective right hand will be 160. Non-defective left hand is 30, so non-defective right hand will be automatically 570. Now you can calculate the total values of left hand and right hand cars also. Okay, so this will be 270 and this will automatically be 730, and everything matches. 400, 600, 1000, 270, 730, 1000, 160, 570, 730, and so on and so forth. Now let's read what the question is. What fraction of exported left-hand cars are defective? Okay, what are the total number of exported cars? Let's first figure out that. So in the question it says that if all the left-hand cars, if all left-hand drive cars are exported, all left-hand are exported, that means these are the cars which are exported. These are, so 270 cars are being exported. What fraction of exported left-hand cars are defective? So I can say 240 out of 270 are defective. That will give you a fraction of 8 by 9. That will give you a fraction of 8 by 9. And that's your answer to this question. The point is, you simply go step by step. Initially, it's gonna be a problem because first thing is identifying the two quantities that you're talking about. It's not going to be that easy, very frankly, even if you have even if you know the basics. And then these percentages and ratios and all these things comes into picture just to make your life difficult. Okay, so go step by step, that's it, nothing else. Anyways, let's move on to the next question. Alright, so pause the video and try this question yourself first. Alright, so let's start with this one. First thing first, I'm going to draw the matrix. Okay, now let's read the question. In an office, 30% of 200 employees are males and 40% of female employees earn less than 10,000 per month. Okay. If more than half of the employees earn at least 10,000 per month, then find maximum difference between male employees earning less than and at least 10,000. I forgot this dollar sign, and per month also. So please excuse me for that. I think apart from that, question for practice, it's pretty simple and clear. All right, now the first thing is, what are we actually talking about in this question? So we are basically talking about two things, that is male, female, and then another thing that's related to is less than and at least $10,000. Okay, so I can say that the first quantity is male, then female, then it's less than 10,000, then it's greater than or equal to 10,000. So you're talking about male, female, less than 10 and at least $10,000. So let's plug in the values. Now in an office, 30% of 200 employees, that means total is 200, and 30% of 200 employees are males, that means 60 are male, and 40% of female employees. Now if 60 are male, can I say remaining 140 would be female? If 60 are male, then remaining 140 have to be female. 40% of female employees earn less than 10,000 per month. So 40% of 140. So 40 by 100 into 140, that is going to be 56. 40% of female employees earn less than 10,000. 40% of female earn less than 10,000. So 40% is 56. This will be 56. Now if 40% earn less than 10,000, that means remaining 60% would be earning equal to or greater than 10,000. So this value will automatically become 80. If more than half of the employees earn at least 10,000 per month, so I can say that this value is basically like greater than 100. So this here will automatically become less than 100. Then find the maximum difference between male employees earning less than and at least $10,000 per month. So we need to find out the maximum difference between these two quantities. Now see that this question, they have used both the concept. They have used the concept of inequalities, and they have also used the concept of Venn diagram, just to make this Venn diagram difficult. Let's see what we can do. Now this value is greater than 100. Now can this value be from 100 to 200? Like what can be the upper limit? This is greater than 100, that's fine. That means it's going to start from 101, because employees are integer values, so this will start from 101, that's for sure. But how far can it go? Can it go up to 200? No, it can't. If it goes up to 200, then this value here has to be 0, which is not possible. And the value just above it has to be 0, which is not possible. The maximum value up to which it can go is equal to 144, because you have 56 here. You have 56 here. So you can make this 0. This will become 60. So 60 plus 84 will automatically become 144. So the maximum value up to which this can go is only equal to 144. Do not write 200 there. Otherwise it would be incorrect. Now if this value can go from 101 to 144, that means this value here will be from 99 to 56. Because 101 plus 99 is 200, 144 plus 56 is also 200. Now we need to figure out the maximum difference. Which means I'll have to make one of them maximum and the other minimum. So let's do one thing. Let's first make male at least 10,000 maximum. Let's first make male at least 10,000 maximum. It will be 144 minus 84, that's 60. So if I want to take this 144, this has to be 56, so this will automatically become 0, which will be the minimum possible value. We can do the opposite way also. Let's make male less than 10,000 maximum. So I'll have to take like 99, so 99 minus 56 is 40, 43. So if I'm going to take this to be 99, this will automatically 101, so that's automatically 70. So the maximum difference will come from these two values, which is equal to 60. So I've used both the concepts here. I have used the concept of Venn diagram. I've also used the concept of inequalities. Okay, just to make question difficult. So the problem here is not the Venn diagram. The problem here is inequalities. This is what you need to understand. Right, let's try one more. So pause the video and try this question, please. Alright, let's see what we can do with this one. First thing first. So I'm going to draw my matrix. Okay, so in a function, in an office function, each guest having lunch also had an ice cream, whereas 20 guests had neither of the two. And find the number of guests having only ice cream if 130 guests attended the function. Pretty concise question, I like it. So the two things I think we all can figure out, that is it's about having lunch and ice cream. Either a person will have lunch or he will not have lunch. Same thing goes for an ice cream also. So you can say lunch, no lunch, then ice cream, and no ice cream. Okay. And we have a total of 130 guests, so I'm going to put 130 here. In an office function, each guest having lunch also had an ice cream. Each guest having lunch also had an ice cream, which means there is no guest who had lunch but not an ice cream. Which means there is no guest who had lunch but did not had an ice cream. Which means this here becomes 0. This here becomes 0. 20 guests had neither of the two, so this will become 20. Then find the number of guests having only ice cream. So I want only ice cream, that is I want this value. If 130 guests attended the function. Alright. So this is going to be a multiple choice question. If it were to come in GRE, if it were to come in GMAT, in that case some other information would also be given to you. But now I want to teach you something more, that is like, if in case the information is not completely given to you, then like what all can you do? Like if you're going to take a variable, then how can you approach the question? Okay, I have intentionally like removed one more information which was given in the question, so that like if we have a variable, then how can we solve that? All right, let's see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna consider the total lunch value to be p. So this here will automatically become 130 minus p. Now if this is p, so this plus this is 0, so this will automatically become p. And the value that is no lunch will become 130 minus p minus 20, which is 110 minus p, which will be 110 minus p, which means if you're going to add these, then this will become 110, and this here will basically be 20. So question is, find the number of guests having only ice cream. So this is that value. So any value that is from 0 to 110, that will be your answer. The questions can be formed in many ways, like for example, in case of GRE, they can give you like multiple options. So anything that is from 0 to 110, including both of them, will be your answer. They can also ask you like how many possible values of P are there, or what all different possible numbers of people can be there who are having only ice cream. That can also be the question. So you need to know, because that these type of questions will come in the exam. They will give you questions in which the entire matrix can't be fulfilled, and you'll have to do some minimization and maximization. That's something that makes like Venn diagram bit difficult. Apart from that, it's a very easy concept. Anyways, we are in our learning phase, so let's move on. So let's just try one more question for this video, otherwise this video will become too long. So pause the video and try this question yourself first, please. Alright. So of the films Empty Set Studios released last year, of the films Empty Set Studios released last year, 60% were comedies and rest were horror films. 75 of comedies were profitable, but 75% of horror movies, I think this will be movies, not moves, were unprofitable. If the studio made a total of 40 films and broke even on none of them, then how many of their films were profitable? Okay, so a lot of information is given to me, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my matrix. And second thing is I need my quantities. So I think we have one thing for sure, that is comedy and horror, so C and H. And I think profitable and unprofitable would be the second one, because there is nothing else that is given to me in the question. Okay. So of the films Empty Set Studio released last year, 60% were comedies, then we have 75%, then we have 75%. The studio made a total of 40 films. Okay, now they have given the total, which is 40. So total here will become 40. 60% were comedies, so 24 are comedies. So that's quite obvious that 16 will be horror. So we are taking comedy and horror as different genre. Okay, nowadays we have comedy and horror both in one movie itself, but we are in this question we are taking it to be a different genre. Alright, 60% were comedies and rest were horror films. Alright, 75% of the comedies were profitable. So 75% of comedies, 75% is 3/4. So 3/4 of 24, that's 18. So 18 were profitable. Alright, but 75% of horror movies were unprofitable. Alright, so 3/4 of horror, they are like unprofitable. So that will be 12. This will be 2. If the studio made a total of 40 films and broke even on none of them. Now, understand this. I wrote 18 here. This is, you need to understand. Okay, I wrote 18 here, but I did not wrote 12 or like whatever the number 6 here. I did not do that intentionally, and I wrote 12 here and I did not write 4 here. I moved on with the question. I did that intentionally. The reason being is that although okay, I have finalized my quantities also, no doubt in that. So 6 has to come down and 4 has to be above 12. The point is I want you to focus on this line. This is very important. I want you to understand, like these are like small things. In some other question it will be something else. You need to notice all these things when you're reading the question. You need to notice these things in the first go itself. This statement specifically says that none of the films broke even. That means there were no movies which were like neither profitable nor unprofitable. That is, the amount that was invested, they got exactly the same amount when they launched the movie. I realized this, but I thought that I'm going to tell you this later. So do not directly write 6 below 18. These are the words which allow you to write 6 below 18 and 4 above 12. These are like small things which you have to take into consideration, guys. Okay. So this will be 18, this will automatically be 6, 12, this is 4. So this will become 22 and this here will become 18. How many of the films were profitable? I think it's a very easy question. That's simply 22. So I hope you have realized that when you talk about this chapter, couple of things you have to take into consideration. First is the matrix, 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines. Like go step by step. Okay, first is the matrix. Second is identifying the quantities, the two quantities that we're talking about in the question, and then slowly and gradually trying to figure out what all can be right or what all information is given to us, and then trying to find out other things based on that. Okay, so I'll be making one more video on this. Like there are a couple of questions which are left. I think 4 or 5 more questions we'll be doing on this chapter, which will like help you in understanding this chapter more accurately. Alright. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Something new to learn how to approach a problem. Venn diagrams is difficult, no doubt in that, whether you talk about GMAT or GRE. And the reason being is that the way the question is put up. It's not the concept, it's the way the question is put up. Okay. So try to solve as many questions as you can. If you have any doubts, if you have any concerns, you can like always comment. You can also text me. And if you're looking for personalized classes for GRE, GMAT and SAT, you can WhatsApp me or you can mail me also. Either way it works for me. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and like the video, share it with your friends, and keep watching and keep learning, guys. And thank you so much.